Hey friends, and welcome to another episode of Field Notes, Insights and Observations for the Travel Marketer. On today's episode, we go to the People's Coast to talk to Stacey Gunderson about everything that's happening on the Oregon coast. And as I said, our guest on this episode of Field Notes, Stacey Gunderson. How are you, my friend?
I am doing well.
How is the conference treating you?
Really well. I always find it very inspiring and energizing to go back home and implement some of the things that I find out here.
Yeah, so how do you prioritize, right? You go to a conference like this, you're here for 3 days or change, you hear a million ideas. How do you figure out which one that you're like, oh, that's the one or three that I'm going to take home and figure out what to do with?
It's been a bit of an evolution. Like the first few conferences, it was just full on overwhelm. Like take notes and hopefully maybe something might, come back up during a project. Now that I have like much more strategic vision behind some of the projects that I'm doing, it's a lot easier to identify the pieces that are useful. And for me, more than anything, it's an opportunity to find out what everybody else is doing and see if there's options to collaborate.
And are you finding that this time around?
I think so. I just was at the culinary work group, and we're currently working on putting together Oregon Coast Seafood Trail.
How awesome would that
be? It will be really cool.
Yeah.
It's like elevating these businesses and markets that are really focused on getting their product locally.
Sure.
So that's part of it. But, when you think about...
Do you think breweries just want a cut of all of the people that are doing trails now, like seafood trails or taco trail? They're like, come on! Like,
we're the beer trail.
We're doing the beer trail. Why don't you pay us for this idea?
No, I think... So I actually think that's a great opportunity for collaboration.
Sure.
And visitors don't see us regionally. So you think about, do the wine trail, do this beer trail, and then incorporate the seafood trail as part of your itinerary.
Sure.
And that's the design behind it. So.
Or to push that further, obviously you could put them together, right, where the beer shows up on the seafood trail,
absolutely.
Right? Or however you want to do that.
And there are even some wonderful restaurants that I love it down in Coos Bay. There's the Seven Devils Brewing. Every dish they have their beer pairing, so there's already a lot of leveraging of those collaborations going on.
Love it. Yeah. So, Stacey, how everybody has had a little bit of a different answer to this, but how is 2026 for you? Like, what are you feeling? When you come to something like this, there's that camaraderie and there's that energy, but then when you get back on Thursday or whenever you end up getting back, right? The real world sets in. Like, what is 2026 like for you, and how are you feeling about it?
I think it's really challenging to stay focused on what you can do.
Yes.
I think that
might be the most polite way I've heard the entire day of how to place that. So.
Well, it's really, given day or time of the day, it's really easy to give into fear.
Yeah.
But I'm reminded, not only through history, but personal experience, if you give into fear, you've kind of already lost.
Sure.
And you're already helpless, so you get stuck really easy. So there's still a lot of good. Stay connected to your people, grow your community. So I think I'm those constant life values are having to be brought up continuously and reinforced by action. So that's a little more personal / professional.
Yeah.
And then as far as 2026, I think there is a lot of uncertainty. But I work with a great group of people who are used to having to be flexible and used to having to say, well, we have this plan, now we have to shift and we have to do this. We're trying to keep our eyes on what's going on and how it's going to affect us. But the people of the coast are just really They're really eager partners, and I think we're all really there to support one another and support efforts. So that makes you feel more hopeful that we'll find a way through the challenges that this year is bringing.
So one of the, shifting gears a little bit, but one of the unique things outside of the fact that Oregon as a whole is a unique place in the United States, but one of the unique things is that there are, I wouldn't say all of them, but there are multiple locations that use a marketing term as a local or like a local, right? And yours is Coast Like a Local.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, strategically speaking, does that twist, so you're not visiting, you're welcome here, right? Does that twist, do you see that, like, do travelers get that when they get here? Like, do they feel that? Because I've only been here for 2 days, and I was telling my wife, like, everybody, it's trite to say when you go to a travel conference that everybody is so nice, but everybody here is so nice. And I wonder if that slight alteration, as opposed to like come to the coast or visit the coast, if they might feel it when they arrive here if they've got a lens that I'm going to do what the locals do because they go do this thing.
I think if you have that lens, it makes a big difference, and you're already noticing, you're already kind of on the lookout. It doesn't reach everybody's ears.
Sure.
But I do think you start to experience that as the ecosystem of Oregon and the coast. Most of the people I interact with, their comment is like, there's no really, like, the chains aren't that, there's chains, but there's not that many restaurant chains. It's all local. And when we do get the requests, like, where should I go? Where's the hidden gems? Where's the mom and pop local? So it's like Travel Oregon has done a lot of good work in like positioning Oregon as it is about mom and pops and locals and small businesses. I think that does help. I think too, especially our Coast Like a Local is all about how to engage in the coast. So it's safety, it's stewardship. And so when you put that title on it, it softens it.
Yeah.
Like, here's how you engage with us when we're here. And remember that you are in somebody's home, basically.
Yeah, and
versus like, don't do that, stop doing that.
Yes, but I do want to focus on that because that was one of the things leading into this interview that you wanted to talk about. Is this idea of how do you get a traveler to care as much about the spot that they're going to put their foot as the people that have to live there after they leave.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering your thoughts around, like, obviously, don't do this, don't do that is not the way to do it, but how much of the time are you thinking about, okay, how do I get you to care about this as much as we do so that we get to use it forever?
Yeah. There's two parts to that. I know in our organization, it's top of mind always. Like in every...
So be specific, like, again, if like another DMO is hearing this and they've got waterfalls or like whatever, coastline.
Yeah.
Specifically, like, how does that manifest? Is that something that's handled in every meeting and every, like, can you give me like maybe a strategic, not like the secret sauce per se, but like, how does that manifest?
No, there's no secret sauce.
There might be.
Yeah.
So.
Our social media is a huge one of our communication platforms. So we're thoughtful about the images that we put on there. We will not put an image of somebody doing something like standing on a cliff or not being on trail. So we use that. Every month we have a stewardship or a safety theme, depending on the weather and the season. It's weaved throughout our whole website of just like how we talk about spending time on the coast. But the other piece of it is regionally, all the partners on the region need to be on board with that messaging. And for the most part, they are. It is truly a cultural norm to talk about how, and I think that's true for all of Oregon.
Sure.
You go to your hotel room, there's a recycling bin and there's trash,
but I asked that though because as somebody from the Midwest, right? That's it's a different language, right? As humans, we look to signs and wayfinding to kind of navigate through the world, and like you have to get used to the way in which that manifests here in physical spaces, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is. I grew up in the Midwest as well, and that's one thing I noticed about Oregon was how many people and how many spaces and places you encountered stewardship messaging.
Even subtle, like I'll be specific. When you walk in, like the hotel or the airport or even at the Japanese gardens, the sheer amount of trash cans to make sure it's if you're once you see you can't unsee, right? If you notice that stuff, you're like, oh, there's a story. There was a meeting, right? Somebody had a meeting to talk about the appropriate amount of these that need to go here.
Yeah, and it takes buy-in from everybody, and we invest in it even as a DMO, RDMO. We have something called the Strategic Investment Fund, and sometimes it is grant funding for people who want to implement more stewardship practices in their business because it costs money.
Sure.
So that's a big part of it. It's just like not only talking about it, but like trying to help people put that in practice. I think too, the state parks talk about it a lot too. All this safety messaging. It's not necessarily Coast Like a Local, but you're going to see that on signage and wayfinding wherever you go. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want anybody to go home from their trip with a bad, sad story, but it happens.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of effort to hopefully not that's not part of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a buddy, and we joke about like a little bit of gallows humor, but we joke about the assumption that nature doesn't care that you're here, and you like sort of need to change your brain when you go to places where that could be an issue, right? Obviously, nobody wants anything to happen, but you also have to go. It's an ocean. It's a cliff. It's right. Like it doesn't care that it's not happy that you've arrived. It does not. It has no thoughts that you are here.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So my follow up to that though would be. You say we invest in stewardship, right? It manifests in however the physical cost of a garbage can or a wayfind or a litany of other ways. On the other end of that receipt, what does it look like for the ROI of that stewardship, right? Because I imagine you might get to some DMOs across the country and be like, I'd love to, but I don't see the immediate benefit, right? Missing, obviously, the long tail, larger story, but in the immediacy, how would you respond to something like that?
That's a good question. I think you can't really gauge it through numbers, but you can gauge it through people do know, like our beaches are very clean. So there's one thing that right away you notice how clean it is typically around our area. So when somebody notices that, or when they start to that direct connection you have when you are on a trail and you see like this beautiful ocean and it clues in all that trash in the streets goes right into the gutters, goes right down into the ocean. I don't want to do that anymore. Like that's a big motivator.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're having such a phenomenal experience and the beauty impacts them in such a way that they even go back and they care more for the places and spaces they're from. But it's hard to measure that. It's hard to really see that. I do know from personal experience that it does, the people I know who have moved here, it does start to impact your lifestyle. I don't know if that's really necessarily an ROI for the visitor.
No, but I think it speaks to the larger, you have an intent that goes beyond the profit and loss statement, right?
Yes.
Like this intent will live on beyond us, and maybe you can't, but you probably should, right? Maybe you can't measure it, but you should probably do it anyway, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I think too, we're at a place on the coast and maybe Oregon in general, but I can't speak to every region, where we have these three regions, north, central, south, and the north coast is really where they see a really high volume tourism impact in the summer. And so we get to watch that and then learn from lessons learned and try to get ahead of that for the other regions of the coast, because obviously that people are traveling further south. So that's one thing of just okay, we're doing this messaging and then we have to already put some infrastructure in place down south. So as a team, we think a lot about, for the North Coast in particular, infrastructure and ways we can help with tourism, travel paths. So it's hard to see what it will be because we're still in that trying out of things.
Yep.
But the local DMOs and we try to talk to each other. There's a lot of conversations together to try and work together and make it happen so people don't feel on their own to solve their problems.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. I wish I could have like a really great zinger of an answer to that, but yeah, I'll probably think of it after I leave. Yeah.
You can use it next time, right? So, Stacey, one of the things, because I'm doing so many of these today, I'm blessed to have a bunch of different conversations. But one of the things that I wanted to do is to allow each guest to write a question for the next guest, not knowing who they are.
Okay.
So when we're done here, I'm going to ask you to write a question to the next person. But I have your question, if you're ready. The question is, what is your DMO doing or not doing with AI to improve the visitor experience?
Oh, okay. We're not doing a whole lot with AI. We're learning. We're watching.
Is that an intentional?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is intentional. We are concerned about the environmental impact.
Sure.
That AI.
That's why I asked.
Is happening.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. So we're paying attention to that. However, we're very aware that we're going to have to deal with it and figure out what makes sense for our organization. So I think more than anything, we're making sure our content and our website and our sources are AI friendly, AI search friendly, but we aren't adopting any strict practices.
Got it.
It is a big part of our conversation, though. Like, does it make sense, just even from organizational assistance point of view, to adopt some tools?
Yep.
Our team, we have 6 people, so
scaling's an issue, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I think each one of us individually is using a few AI tools here and there to get our work done. But yeah, we're not yet diving into the customer service piece. We have a real human who's answering your emails. We don't have a chatbot on our site. And then on the flip side is I am listening to how other people are using and learning, what they're learning about their visitors. And we're kind of watching what Travel Oregon does.
Right. As you should.
They're our leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
Stacey, thank you so much for the time.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, thank you.